welcome to SVG TV News for Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The estimates of revenue and expenditure for the fiscal year 2023 totaling $1,445,886,613 or 1.4 billion EC dollars was presented in Parliament today by Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez, who says the figure represents a 8.8% increase over the approved budget for 2022.
The budget for 2023 is broken down as follows. Recurrent expenditure, inclusive of amortization and sinking fund contributions, $974,323,500, and capital expenditure of $471,563,113. Financing for the 2023 budget is expected to come from current revenue of $761,431,200 and capital receipts totaling $684,455,414.
Minister Gonzalez also spoke of some changes and initiatives in the 2023 budget estimates.
But the first is the Regional Integration and Diaspora Unit has been now placed within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. The post-secondary and tertiary education program has been moved from within the Ministry of Education and National Reconciliation and placed in the Office of the Prime Minister as the post-secondary and higher education program. And these were discussed, Madam Speaker, in various press conferences and so on for the year, but these are now reflected in the estimates. The capital project capitalization of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority has been moved from the capital estimates and is now part of the recurrent estimates as grants to other agencies under the Policy Planning and Administrative Support Services Program in the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor. The dengue eradication campaign capital project has similarly been moved from the capital estimates and is now subsumed under the Environmental Health Services Program in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment. The thinking being at the time that there was a spike in dengue and there was a capital program to address it, but the officials in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment have now believed that that intervention should be sustained beyond the length of a short-term capital intervention and become de rigueur in the ministry.
The finance minister said the current revenue of $761.4 million is 12.4% or $83.9 million above the amount budgeted in 2022. He said the projected revenue improvement performance in 2023 is indicative of the uptake in real economic activity projected for 2023.
Revenue from tax sources is expected to contribute $648.3 million to the consolidated fund in 2023, while non-tax revenue is estimated to gross $113.2 million. Tax revenue is expected to increase by 11.3% as the major tax types are expected to contribute as follows. Taxes on income and profits estimated to rise by $8.3 million or 5.3%. Taxes on goods and services expected to increase by $20 million or 10.4%. Taxes on international trade and transactions to go up by 27% or $45.7 million. Non-tax revenue collection in 2023 is estimated at $113.2 million. This figure is 19.2% more than the amount budgeted in 2022. The amount in the 2023 budget under non-tax revenue is expected to come mainly from sales of goods and services, which is projected to generate $95.9 million in revenue. This amount is estimated to be $20.2 million more than the amount collected in 2022. Revenue from non-tax sources is also expected to come from inflows from other miscellaneous sources, in the amount of about $12 million.
Minister Gonzalez says the recurring expenditure inclusive of amortization and sinking fund contributions amount to $974.3 million, which is 4.6% or $42.5 million above the amount budgeted for in 2022.
The recurrent expenditure for 2023 is made up as follows. Current expenditure, $771.7 million. Amortization, $180.6 million, sinking fund contribution of $22 million for the aforementioned total of $974.3 million. The following are the changes the changes recorded in the three subcomponents of total recurrent expenditure for the 2023 budget compared to that of 2022. Current expenditure has increased by 6.1%. Amortization is down by 1.2%, and sinking fund contributions remain flat. Under the rubric of current expenditure, the following items account for the budgeted increase in 2023. Compensation of employees increases by $19.8 million or 5.6%, and other transfers, including social assistance, training, grants, and contributions to local, regional, and international organizations, is expected to realize an increase of $13 million or 9.6%. The summary of the recurrent expenditure budget by economic categories is as follows. Compensation of employees is $373.8 million. Pensions, $60.3 million. Other transfers, $147.6 million. Debt service, $282.9 million. Goods and services, $109.7 million.
The finance minister says the budget for wages and salaries for 2023 is 5.7% higher than the amount estimated in 2022, and this is due to the recently negotiated public sector salary enhancement package and increases in increments and the additional allowances that go along with the new positions created. He told Parliament earlier that the main staff increases represent 115 additional posts relative to budget 2022, with the majority of the addition, 65 to be exact, created in the Ministry of National Security. In terms of SVG's public debt, this stands at just over $2 billion, an increase of 4.1% over 2022. And in his response to the presentation of the 2023 budget estimates, leader of the opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday, noted that the estimates come in the context of a country that is recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, the volcanic eruption, and other challenges. Dr. Friday said the focus has to be not only on recovery, but investing in growth, particularly the things that are necessary to boost the country's economy in a way that a few years ago they might not have been considering.
That we have to go in different directions. We have to think outside the box. We have to be of a mind to say that we can transform this country, not just to have incremental changes. Coming out of COVID, we have to adapt to new modes of business, new ways of delivering services to make us more efficient, competitive, and also to take advantage of modern technologies that were unleashed during the COVID crisis. Speaker, those were, in a sense, the two shocks that we absorbed, we were hit with over the past 2.5 years. But that came in a backdrop of chronic high unemployment in the country, and increasing poverty, particularly in some areas. You don't need a weatherman to tell you which way the wind blows. I mean, most people know that things are harder, that life is tougher, and that is a result of growing poverty in the country.
The opposition leader noted that even though the country is experiencing hardship, that is not an excuse to blame everything on COVID and the volcano. He said they have to create a frame of mind focusing on investment in productive activities.
We cannot fail to take measures to assist those persons who have suffered particularly in the two crises that I've mentioned and the ongoing unemployment situation. So what we have to do about the unemployment and poverty, that backdrop, is to focus on a program, an investment program from government and private sector to promote the growth of businesses and to generate jobs in our economy. That is the best way to help people and to bring people out of poverty. The handouts in times of crisis are fine, but most people would prefer, Madam Speaker, to be earning and to have their independence and also to plan for the future, which they can do if they have jobs. And that is where we have to focus. As the old saying goes, when life throws you lemons, most people prefer oranges and tangerines, but when it throws you lemons, you can't eat them, but you can make lemonade. You have to be creative. Every cloud has a silver lining. So we have to find them in this souffre and the COVID crisis.
Dr. Friday further told Parliament that now is the time for them to reset their thinking, not just doing things differently, but better, and that the preparation of the estimates is a good way to start by making them a true reflection of the government's expectations and plans for the year and beyond.
Not a political gimmick or a wild guess as to how much you're going to spend here and there and how much you're going to raise. These are they're not guesstimates, they're estimates. So we should have a fairly clear picture as to what the revenue, capital, and current are going to be raised and where the funds are coming from. And I think you know where I'm going with this. But it's not done here, Madam Speaker. What we see is in this 2023, coming out of unprecedented crisis in terms of COVID, the nature in which it affected the global economy and us here, and how it affected people's mindset about their entire approach to life for some people. You would think that that would also be reflected here, Madam Speaker. But what we have is the same exercise in deception. And it is deliberate. As my friend from Central Kingstown, the member for Central Kingstown suggested this morning. It is deliberate. It's not a miscalculation or best wishes. Even though it can't be implemented, the budget every year, this year is bigger than last year. The estimate bigger, presumably is better. Even though it cannot be implemented because of a lack of money. There's the other problem, of course, of implementation capacity, but we don't even have to go there.
The opposition leader said the bloated nature of the budget has been an issue for years, and though the government says it expects to have $1.4 billion in revenue to spend in 2023, he is questioning where the money will be coming from. Because
we have an overall deficit, which is comprised of the current deficit of just over $10 million, as the minister indicated, 10.3 million. And you add amortization, costs, the repayment of debt of 180.6 million, plus the sinking fund allocations of $22 million, and you have a total overall current deficit of $212.8 million, just over nearly 15% of the overall budget. Which means, Madam Speaker, that in presenting this document to this House and to the people, the minister is saying, because he was mum on the subject matter when he had a chance to explain, especially in light of the fact that the question was asked of him this morning, he thought that he would take the opportunity to explain where the other receipts are going to come from to make up the money. the $225 million that they don't have. But what the minister is suggesting is that that amount of money as reflects or is reflected in programs that will not be funded. So nearly 15% of the budget will not be funded.
The 2018 Poverty Assessment Report for St. Vincent and the Grenadines is incomplete, and a decision was made to terminate the process. This was noted in Parliament today by Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez, who outlined the reasons for ending the process after he was asked by opposition MP Daniel Cummins about the status of the assessment exercise. What is the expenditure to date on the exercise, and when will the report be made known to the public?
1. Incomplete, inaccurate, and misleading figures were unofficially and prematurely circulated to the public in late 2020. This compromised the integrity of the ongoing assessment and its findings. Had the process continued and the published figures differed from those that were previously circulated unofficially, the government may have been accused of tampering with the data, and the credibility of the Ministry of Finance, and in particular the Statistical Office, would have been damaged. There was a considerable discrepancy between what was circulated and what was emerging internally in the data being collected. The dissemination of incomplete, inaccurate, and misleading data for apparently partisan political purposes also led to an analysis of the credibility of the data collected prior to, and revisions to the ways in which data are collected, stored, and analyzed by professionals in the bureaucracy. 2. The challenges to complete data collection, surveys, interviews, and analysis during the COVID pandemic and the volcanic eruptions were insurmountable, and would have presented the problem of merging pre-pandemic, pre-volcano data with information gathered in the immediate aftermath of those cataclysmic events. 3. The socioeconomic landscape of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has changed markedly since the bulk of the data collection commenced in 2018. As we are aware, the country has experienced the negative impacts of the pandemic and the eruptions of the La Soufre volcano. As such, indicators of poverty and vulnerability would have changed drastically and do not reflect the current realities on the ground.
Minister Gonzalez told Parliament a new assessment is being planned, noting that undertaking the poverty assessment is a very important exercise that is critical for evidence-based policies and programs. Hence, the government remains committed to conducting the assessment.
The survey is a cross-sectional study that analyzes data from a population at a single point in time. It provides rates of poverty and vulnerability, identifies the determinants of poverty, and describes features of the population. Accordingly, the assessment provides quantitative data on poverty and vulnerability. Therefore, the government signed a financing agreement with the World Bank on the 4th of June 2022 for $6 million to strengthen data collection and analysis in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The World Bank has agreed to finance a survey of living conditions and has made available $478,000 for this activity. A total of $300,521 was incurred on the was incurred on the 2018 poverty assessment at the point of its termination. While the process was incomplete, some of the information collected still provides useful baseline data that will inform the analysis of trends and patterns in future assessments and surveys. As previously mentioned, the 2018 poverty assessment was terminated at that point. However, it was agreed with the World Bank that a new poverty assessment will be conducted following completion of the population and housing census. The methodology of the 2025 poverty assessment has not been confirmed. This will be determined by the OECS at the OECS level as part of the OECS Data for Decision-Making project. It is to be decided whether the diary method from 2008 or the recall method from 2018, or a combination of both methods, would be used for the collection of the data.
In other news now, we hear that police here are investigating the death of a Lobans Hill man who was shot and killed early this morning. His lifeless body was discovered 4 hours later. His death marks this country's 38th homicide for 2022. We hear more in this report.
Lobans Hill residents said they heard 5 gunshots at around 1:22 a.m. And it was after 5 a.m. that an alarm was raised in the community as the lifeless body of 38-year-old Jason Henry was found lying at the intersection of Burgeon Street, Lomans Hill. Police and medical personnel were summoned to the scene as investigations have begun. The grieving family said they also heard the gunshots but did not think there was any killing, as random gunshots ringing out have become a norm. Cousin of the deceased, who rushed to the scene after receiving the news, says gunshot wounds were evident.
He was shot several times in the stomach area, and that's the most of what we know right now. It's a sad situation. We are all trying to cope in different ways. There's really not many words, honestly. Everyone, we are known to be a close-knitted family, and someone who you've known all of your life was snuffed out.
Henry was one of 4 siblings and lived with his grandmother several houses away from where the shooting took place. The grieving family says Jason will be dearly missed.
He was very reliable, dependable, and quite supportive. You have any venture that you're going on, he is one person who you could count on. He was a lover of children, although he never had any of his own. He embraced his cousins, his nieces, his nephews, in the most fun-loving way.
The deceased has reportedly had several brushes with the law. Today's killing is the 38th for the year in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Larissa Pugsley-Kidd, SVG TV News.
Here that Ronique Charles of the Lomans Leeward Anglican copped the first place prize in this year's school safety essay competition, while Kalia Lavey and Danroy Holder of the Georgetown Secondary came out on top in the school safety quiz competition hosted by the school safety unit in the Ministry of Education. In second place in the school safety essay competition was Lendra Pemberton of the Bible Methodist, followed by Kiara Michael of the Fancy Government in third place. In the safety quiz competition, there was a tie for second place between Michelle Laborde and Rudana Jack of the Bookament Bay Secondary, and Jeffon Duncan and Catherine Miller of the Girls High School. Rihanna Rose and a Perfect Cordis of the Mountain View Academy took the fourth place position. The winner in the primary school category of the essay competition shared her winning composition on how safe her school is.
Generally, I think that my school is safe because it is fenced. There is a security guard, a restroom attendant, and it has rules and punishments to discourage fighting and bullying. My school has a tall wire fence that completely surrounds it, and it prevents strangers from entering the premises. It makes me feel safe because people are unable to enter unknowingly and hurt my sister in kindergarten, or the rest of the students.
Speaking on school safety across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Dixon Finley, commended Dr. Idelia Ferdinand, noting that she has been doing a great job with the school safety initiative.
A resilient people, that we're indeed a people that have been forged through many battles as we walk towards the development of our country. School safety is a component of the Ministry of Education's attempt to diversify the education product. In fact, when we speak about school safety, we speak about safer schools for our children, for our teachers, for our professionals, safer schools. But the evolution of the concept of safety, we are facing many threats today. And when we speak about viruses, you will say that today I'm afflicted with a virus that has rendered it difficult for me to express myself with clarity. But when we speak about virus, we speak also of computer virus. And our students need to be protected from these viruses as well. We have seen many struggles over the past year or so. We have seen as well the importance of school safety.
Today also marks the culmination of a series of activities hosted by the Research and School Safety Unit in the Ministry of Education and Reconciliation to commemorate School Safety Month observed in November. The activities were observed under the theme Safety and Sustainable Development. Speaking at the School Safety Prize Giving Ceremony, Chief Education Officer K. Martin Jack said the Research and School Safety Unit has done considerable work this year in strengthening the ministry's efforts on providing information on climate change and school safety.
Education remains the single most effective way of changing hearts and affecting attitudes, particularly when it concerns issues that are hinged to our survival as a human race, and more specifically to our Vincentian people. It is imperative, therefore, that as a ministry, we continue to make wholesome efforts to ensure that the necessary information is available and that it promotes environmental resilience and school safety. Over the last year, the team was able to set up several initiatives to heighten environmental awareness and foster a symbiotic relationship between practice and theory. I therefore wish to challenge more schools, stakeholders, and indeed the entire population to get on board with already established initiatives from the department or take advantage of those yet to come.
Martin Jack says more schools across St. Vincent and the Grenadines have been equipped with safety equipment.
But as a ministry, we continue to make wholesome efforts to ensure that the necessary information is available and that it promotes environmental resilience and school safety. Over the last year, the team was able to set up several initiatives to heighten environmental awareness and foster a symbiotic relationship between practice and theory. I therefore wish to challenge more schools, stakeholders, and indeed the entire population to get on board with already established initiatives from the department or take advantage of those yet to come. The team was able to distribute school safety equipment to several schools, develop a cohesive and comprehensive school safety policy, improve and strengthen the climate change and disaster reduction curriculum, and participate and engage students at the National Science Fair, among other things. I wish to commend, just as the PS would have done, the efforts of the Research and School Safety Department in helping to change opinions one at a time. And I must thank you. We look forward to bigger.
The Chief Education Officer further congratulated the winners in the school safety competitions. And 140 bursary scholarships were handed over to students during a ceremony held on December 9th at the SVG Community College. The recipients comprised students from the different divisions of the college and students of primary and secondary schools. In his opening remarks, Director of the SVG Community College, Nigel Scott, said the community college campus and the scholarship bursary program are a reflection and indication of what partnership and friendship is about. Scott expressed gratitude to the Republic of China on Taiwan for their continued support to Vincentians and to the students of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Taiwan's ambassador to SVG, His Excellency Peter Shi Ling Lang, in his remarks said this is the 25th ceremony held to hand over bursary scholarships to recipients in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, noting that the education cooperation is probably one of the strongest pillars of the cooperation between Taiwan and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Ambassador Lan said one of the reasons the Republic of China on Taiwan launched the bursary scholarship program in SVG is to open doors for every Vincentian student. Minister of Education Curtis King said the friendship between the ROC, Taiwan and St. Vincent and the Grenadines continue to provide great support to both countries. Minister King said an investment in education is significant and important to national development, and Taiwan is a great example of this. A total of 524 bursary scholarships were given to students for the year 2022. The scholarships, valued at a total of 320,000 AC dollars, will go towards supporting the students with school supplies, meals, and transportation. To date, more than 11,500 Vincentian students have already benefited from the bursary program since its launch in 1998. And after a 2-year hiatus, the luncheon for several senior citizen on the southern end of North Leeward was hosted on Sunday, December 11th at the Cumberland Recreational Site. The luncheon forms part of a series of ongoing programs for the elderly and will continue next week with a second luncheon on the northern side of the constituency. According to event coordinator Laurel Hamilton, volunteers came together from communities within North Leeward to assist with the hosting of the event. Speaking at the event on Sunday, Member of Parliament for North Leeward, Carlos James, noted that a series of luncheons is an important part of showing appreciation to seniors who made their contribution as national builders. According to Minister James, following 2 challenging years of the COVID-19 pandemic and the explosive eruption of Lasafre volcano, the series of luncheons are important in bringing communities together. Next week's luncheon will take place at the Chateaubriand Methodist School, commencing at 1 p.m.